Can you still see me? I'm sorry if you can't. I wonder if I can. Where's that
What's
other
his
guy?
name? Yeah.
Okay, hang on. Can you still see me? Where are you guys? I lost you guys.
I cannot see you.
Now you can't see me?
Just see the photo.
Okay. How about now? Now you can see me?
Yes.
There you are.
Okay, I'm trying to plug you in so I don't lose the juice. I don't know if I can reach back. So no Davy? Yep. Are we working on that? I think I can plug this in. Well, I may lose you because I... Hang on a second. I don't have much more...
This may be a very short show then.
Well, I've got, let's see, what am I at? 70 something? How long? I'm at 88. I'll be fine, right?
And I am out of here at 9 o'clock, at the top of the hour.
Okay, oh, that's,
All right.
okay, then we'll be fine. All right. Can you still see me?
Yes. Sometimes we see your hand.
Where's the camera? Oh, there's the camera. Like here, if I do that, for example.
Now we have Jennifer's fingerprints.
And there's my camping gear in the back. My dirty laundry from camping.
My family was home from camping for 20 minutes today, and then went
Oh yeah, I've been
camping.
following your wife. Oh, she went camping again.
The kids did.
No.
She dropped them off, and then she went to Columbus.
Oh. So there's the road. All right, let me turn that back. Okay, so someone's just going to prompt with questions. I can't read. I can't
Okay.
read them. I can't read them. I'm sorry.
Aside from the other questions we had mentioned, I know Nico had commented something about like what's coming up in the world of online learning. Where's it headed? What's the new stuff going to be?
And I think there were some questions, follow-up questions to asynchronous versus synchronous and what that means for learners.
Yes.
And oh, there were some good questions about data. What do you do? Do you worry about the data produced by your students, and when you take them onto places, what the privacy and ownership, those types of
That is
issues.
correct.
That would be a good one to know on.
All right. Data and ethics.
Yes. Should we start with that one, or I don't care. I don't know about digital literacy. That's not my bag, I guess. I don't really know what that means, but we can talk about it.
Well, we can talk. Yeah, digital literacy is just a conversation about what are the prereqs that everybody needs to have, and it sounded like that was a K-12 kind of question, although not necessarily.
Yeah, and we kind of did a little of that last week, right?
Mm-hmm. We can't start without Dave, because he starts us.
We really aren't. We're going to wait?
No. You're going to start. Go.
Hi, this is Jennifer Madrill, and today is, I think it's June 15th. It's Father's Day here, whatever that date is. And I am somewhere, as I will show you, I am somewhere on the road back to Chicago from Wisconsin, literally on the highway. And I will let the others introduce themselves.
This is John Schinker staying put in one place in Stowe, Ohio. And it is the 15th in North America.
Good.
And this is Jeff Lebo in Busan, Korea, where it is the 16th. Wishing everyone who is in the right neighborhood a happy Father's Day and meets the criteria. A happy Father's Day. Happy Father's Day, John.
Thank you.
Yes.
Happy Father's Day, Jen.
Yeah, you know what? I celebrated it anyway, so it doesn't matter. Well, poor John, you didn't have your family with you anyway, right? So we're
it was a very peaceful Father's Day, I have to say.
We're stepping in as his family tonight.
And Dave is off, we guess, celebrating in unknown ways. And may join us or may not. But our question today comes from Simon Enzer, who asks about data and ethics. What do you feel and what do you tell students about the deal with ever-changing small print agreements being made between net companies and net users concerning the loss of their privacy and their use of data? And more generally, as we do all these online things, how do you deal with taking that safe, closed classroom environment and opening it up and sharing all their work?
Yeah, and when he posted that in the Google Plus community, which, by the way, thank you to everyone who posted. We had a nice turnout, I thought. I was somewhat apologetic, but kind of not real apologetic, but just fessed up that I don't think about it, and I probably should. And I was happy that he posted the question because I have students use Google Docs all the time, and I push them to a lot of Google platforms, and I don't know what happens with their data. I don't know. And I don't spend a lot of time digging into it beforehand, which is probably something I should do more.
Well, I think that's a pretty common sentiment, and it's certainly one that we do as well, where I can't say that I read the terms of service for every online service that I use. I mean, we're in Hangouts now, and we're using Chrome, and we're using Skype, and we're using Windows, and we're using Mac and iOS and whatever, and we don't read the terms of service for all of those things and look at how our data might be used and what it's being used for. So, I guess it's a valid question, but if you are going to go to that level of saying that I don't want my data to be used without my permission, or I want to have control over every piece of data that I'm putting online, then you're not putting any data online. The system is set up in a way that it just becomes unusable if you are concerned about that stuff. I don't think you can get away from it unless you create all of your own systems.
Yeah, and I guess that was part of, read between the lines in my answer is I still want to play the game, so I'm playing by somebody else's rules because it's their board game. And so until I decide I want to set up my own board game, I have to play by their rules.
Well, and I guess the thing that I tell everybody, and this is the children in my house more really than the children that we work with in my school, is that when you put something online, it's public, and it doesn't matter if it appears to be private, if it's a direct message, or if it's a text message, or if it's an email to a single person. You have to assume that when you're putting things out into the ether, you are giving up control of them, and other people will eventually have access to those. So so that might happen through a security breach. It might happen through a terms of service thing where they say, oh yeah, we can mine your email and look for keywords and serve ads to you. Or it might be that they're doing something more nefarious than that. In general, I don't put anything on any device or any information service, or certainly the internet, that I don't consider to be public.
Yeah, and I guess that would be when I think now a little longer about it. I guess I think more about for those that have not spent a lot of time online. So, for example, if I have an open discussion forum where it's public and it's not a closed garden, I will spend more time saying just be aware that whatever you post, if don't post your phone number, your email, if you have a question, send those types of, for those that aren't familiar, I would spend more time worrying about that than necessarily what happens downstream with their data. But Jeff, what do? You're bringing people onto new places all the time. Do you worry that much about it?
I think about it and then kind of ignore it. There's the two components. There's the ownership of data, the fact that if you have a Google Doc or a Facebook group that, to whatever extent Google or Facebook owns that data, which, if you're going to play the game, I'm not concerned about bad things happening to the students as a result. I think it's worth a word of caution about this is the way the game is played, and you should be aware of these rules. For me, the much bigger issue is, going public. Last night, for my final exams for my undergrads, I had them doing Google Hangouts that we streamed on air, and John, nasal placement. Sorry. And I never force anyone to do anything. I had them make blogs also, and so part of the preface is, we are going to be doing things online in this course. If you absolutely don't want to do that, find another course. You don't have to. You can hide your identity. If you don't want to use your name, please don't use your real name. And for the finalists, I don't feel comfortable making them go online for their final assignment. So I gave them the choice of on air or off air and encouraged them to go on air. And most of them chose to go on air. A few chose not to. And that's fine.
Yeah, and I've had conversations with friends of mine where I'll be a little disappointed and I'll put together some type of like a project management blog, and I'll make it in an open blog like WordPress or whatever, and I'll be disappointed in the people. Some people hadn't participated, and I'll get pushback from friends when I mention it, saying, "Well, you shouldn't make it public. This might be their issue. They may not want to post their every last detail of what they thought about the class or the project." And kind of to your point, Jeff, then I'm not probably a good professor for you, because that's, to me, I think that's a big part of what we should be doing now, is being comfortable putting ourselves out there while we're learning.
And I
so,
think, back in the day, we had the domain, and I still have the domain, Trust in Education, teaching responsible use of social technology. And I think that's part of the learning that needs to happen, is when you're going to go online, you need to be aware of certain things. You need to not publish anything that you really don't want out there for eternity. And part of that, I've had situations where people go online and they publish something, and then a year later they come back and say, Jeff, can you please take that offline? And I do feel a certain commitment to honor that.
Oh, yeah. If there was something that I totally agree. Like something slipped out, or you just wish you hadn't said it that way, and it's
Yeah, you just go back and reread it and say, this isn't really reflective of what I meant then, or what I'm feeling now about this issue or this person or this situation or this experience. And you change your mind over time. And I think that we are used to having that long tail of posting things online all the time. And so our opinions are there and they evolve over time, and we don't worry about it so much. I'm speaking for the four of us, though perhaps I shouldn't. But if your only experience with online content is through a single course, then that is one moment in time that's out there all by itself. One of the things we teach our students about digital footprints is that you want to keep using your real name, and you want to keep posting things online so that people know how awesome you are. And so when they Google you, they see all this wonderful stuff, and one or two of those things might be something that you're not particularly proud of. Thinking here of photos of me with no pants on.
For example.
Yeah, for example.
Which we can find.
You don't need to. But that's overshadowed by all of the other good stuff that's online. So I think when we're working with students who don't have as much of an online presence as we do, because they're not technological omnivores and they're not in Hangouts on air every week, and they're not posting on their blogs and using Twitter and all of those things that we say that we do, I think it's more of an issue for them. And through the reflection stuff, I think reflection is an essential component of learning, but I don't know that it has to be public. So we want to encourage them to reflect in a public manner, but I don't know that that's the only place that we should be allowing that to happen.
And it would be nice if there were options at time where, that's one of the things I don't like about Blogger. I wish they could. And actually a Google Plus or a Facebook will do this, where you can share comments with just your class. But on the actual blog, it's hard to, I guess you can't even password protect it on Blogger. I like that choice. But I do think audience has power. And last night's Hangouts on Air were much cooler because we had Maha from Egypt and Elizabeth Ann in France and people from all over. And the fact that, wow, the world is listening to us added something to it. But
right,
it's we had the conversation about the messiness part. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, John.
I was just commenting. You don't need to even have the audience. You just have to have the potential for the audience that just raises the whole level of discourse. Go ahead, John.
Oh, I couldn't recall. Where did was that the tail end of last week, or maybe in one of the Facebook or whatever, wherever someone was posting about when things got messy? And to me, this is the messy part of it that we all, well, at least all of us on this call right now, embrace and try to share. That is, everything doesn't have to be neat and tidy as you're going through your learning process and trying something and failing on a new technology or whatever. I think we did talk a little bit about that last week, and I totally agree. It doesn't always have to be public, the reflections you do, But I think you also need to get away from this idea that everything you put out there has to be completely polished and perfect before the world sees it. Um,
Which I
so
think we're very comfortable with. I think.
I think we're highly comfortable with that. We
I
embrace
have
that.
I have learned that from EdTech Talk. Although I will admit that I also have another place that I reflect, and it's on paper. Right? I keep a notebook and I write down notes in it, and sometimes they're incomplete. Most of the time they're incomplete, and sometimes I go back to them and I'll tie things together, and those eventually may become tweets or blog posts. But that's where the incomplete stuff is for me.
Can you guys believe I'm driving 65 miles an hour as got my left hand on the wheel?
I'm just wondering if the driver, Tom, had anything to add to this conversation. He
I
must
can
be
only show
listening
his
intently.
fingers. He told me I'm only allowed to show his fingers.
Ooh, we got some thigh in there too.
Did you feel a thigh in there too, Tom? Sorry about that. Um,
Tom
that was
puts
a good
up with a
question.
lot.
He does. He
He
does.
does.
Although this might be the only time in the past, 8 years that he's actually sat through an EdTech Weekly or whatever we're calling this now. So I have to
Captive
get him
prisoner.
captive in the guard.
You say that, but you know he listens to us on his commute every Monday.
Exactly. All right, that was a good question. Well, a good set of questions, I guess. What other ones did we have, Jeffy? I can't recall.
Well, there was
Digital
sync
literacies,
versus async, and digital literacies, and
and
what else?
also what's coming up in the future of online learning. What's the new cool stuff going to be?
And then also the questions about asynchronous versus synchronous,
Yes.
and that kind of wow. I don't know. Well, you guys have your crystal balls. Maybe they're shined up. Mine is as far as the what's new on the horizon. But I still think we have so many of the late adopters to drag along on some of the stuff that we're currently doing now. Um, I haven't seen anything that's profoundly different last 18 months or so. Have anything that's gotten you guys excited?
Well, I mean, one of the reasons we stopped going through 25 links a week was that the pace of new stuff coming out slowed down considerably. That
Mm-hmm.
there's not a ton of new technologies. What we're trying to do and what we're struggling with is how does the technology that we have actually change education, and how does that affect the relationship between teachers and students, and what the roles of each of those things are, and what do we mean by learning now that we have answers in our pockets and our students have answers in their pockets. How do we get beyond that and use information to make decisions and solve problems and do innovative things? As far as the tools go, I don't know that there's anything particularly innovative in it. We see wearable tech, we see more with monitoring, self-monitoring. We see that in the fitness side where you're monitoring steps and calories burned and all of those kinds of things. And I see data as being more and more important. We have to find a better way to collect that data other than testing students every 4 days or whatever we're doing now.
What
And
would
I
be the
see
educational
mobile.
component, like Fitbit and all that health monitoring stuff?
Right.
What's the educational corollary there?
It's the short cycle formative assessment, right? It's the constantly monitoring what students are learning and where their gaps are, and then adjusting instruction to fit that. And so we're hyper individualizing instruction. That moves to this scientification of learning, which really tends to push us into just content acquisition. So how do we get beyond knowledge and remembering facts, because all of these technologies seem to be geared toward that. So
You
I think
sound
it's
like you've
really
been hanging
hard.
around Dave Cormier a lot.
I've talked to him a couple times.
But you know what, John? I agree. With mobile, look at me. We're doing an IHAQ in my car. But at the same time, you read so many things locking down access in schools, or not letting folks bring their cell phones to class. And same thing in our classes. We have in our syllabus, I didn't even realize it, in my PhD master's program, telling the students the assumption is they will turn off all other technologies while we're in our virtual sessions. And I couldn't believe it. I just read the fine print. I was like, wow, no, wait. But there's still this idea that pay attention to the front of the classroom. And
Honestly, I think we're
it's still
seeing
that.
more in higher ed than in K-12 now. I mean, really, what I've witnessed in the schools that I deal with, and again, it's a very small sample, but increasingly teachers and schools are embracing the technology that the students are bringing with them. And so the policies are changing from you can't have a cell phone to then it went to you can have a cell phone but you can't use it in class, and now it's at you can have a cell phone and you can use it in class unless the teacher tells you you can't. And so it's left up to the discretion of the instructor, and that's changing instructional practice. I think that it's still very much a case where it's added, and some teachers want their students to take advantage of it, and some don't. But the sense I get is that in higher ed, if you're in lecture classes or in traditional direct instruction situations, there are a lot of cases where they just want you to turn it off entirely and sit there with a spiral notebook and a pen.
Mm-hmm.
Now, I haven't been in a college classroom in 15 years, so I don't know.
But I do think, John, in kind of answering Jeff's question, just the fact that everybody does have these devices, what you can have them do, and it's just becoming just so much more commonplace. In our service learning projects, we had the students use, not that it's like wild, crazy technology, but we just had everybody use the Google folders, and it was not even a big deal. Like, I know a while ago, maybe a year ago, we would have had to have a screencast tutorial. And so people are catching up that things like that are becoming more the norm.
Well, we just talked about that last week, right? You have to fill in those gaps when people don't come with the skills that you need to use these technologies. But you're right, you're not focusing on the tech anymore. You're just saying, yeah, we need a way to share documents, and here's a way to do it. Let's move on and focus on the learning and not the tech.
So even though the officially sanctioned thing at my university would be Blackboard and everything has to be in Blackboard, it's not at all weird, at least to my students, to say we're going to do something different.
Right.
All right, cool. Anything more on that, Jeff?
I don't know. I mean, I kind of agree. I can't think of anything that's radically new that's going to be a different kind of tool or a different piece of hardware. It's just that the stuff that's out there is growing up. And
what about augmented reality? What about things like glass? I would have loved to have Google Glass when I was taking the SAT.
Yeah. I don't know. And same thing with wearables.
Right.
Maybe we'll be doing in 18 months, we'll be doing our Hangouts on our watches. So, I don't know, maybe. I don't know. And will it matter? Probably not. But something different. All right, moving on.
Or we could stop there. We can have our shortest IHAQ. Since we're short one member, we can have a 25% reduction in time.
And Jeff, you're on your last week
more
of
like
school,
a 40% reduction in time.
All right.
Because we're missing Dave.
Right.
Yeah, we can stop there.
That's fine by me. No traffic. Check this out. This never happens. Oh, there's a motorcycle. This never happens in Chicago.
Now, is this legal to be streaming people driving live? Do you need their permission?
I'm going to pull them over and get a permission.
She has a signed release for every single person.
That's it.
Including Tom's hands and his legs.
One of the segments last night was on K-pop, and I had a couple of students who pressed play on their laptop, and there's a little bit of K-pop music playing, and they did a K-pop dance for a little while. And that was it. And the quality was horrible. The video got flagged by YouTube, by SM Media. Yeah. And it said, you may be banned in certain countries. And I was like, come on.
Oh my gosh. So it scanned then. It's because it was the audio playing. It wasn't that you typed in there. We used it wasn't a text thing. It was listening to actually the audio. Wow.
Which is amazing when you think about like how many songs are, and like it didn't take it down. It just flagged it and said you may be banned in some countries. Because you can go to YouTube and there's just, any song ever is out there. But they must do quite a job of scanning because there's certain content that does not get up.
It's about monetizing, right? I mean, I think it was on Spark this week. It was on something I listened to today where they were talking about these companies that sort of bridge that gap between the end user, the person who's uploading content or modifying copyrighted content and the content producers, and how the content producers can then flag those videos and then they can monetize them. So they stay up, but the ad revenue goes to the copyright holder. And so
That's exactly right.
it's
That's
a
what
new
happened.
model.
Is
Yeah.
the ad? Yeah, right. The ads popped up on it, and they
So
said,
it auto detects it, and then whoever owns that content gets that ad revenue. And so you can leave it there. And it's really trying to build a bridge between people who want to use content that's copyrighted without having to jump through all the legal hurdles to do it, but they also want to protect the rights of the rights holder.
which is, seems
Mhm.
equitable. Although that ad, it was a 2.5-hour video, and the ad popped up on the whole thing, not just the 30
Right.
seconds when that music played.
Right.
So I have a feeling that's a win-win-win for Google.
Win for Google, win for the copyright holder, lose for Jeff.
Well, if it's between that video staying up or not, I suppose it's a non-loss.
And we're at the same time next week, right? You have one more week of
Yeah.
early time.
This time?
Yeah. And then after that, I'm good for any time.
Yay!
All right.
All right.
Okay.
Well,
keep the
nice
questions
job,
coming.
Jen.
This was fun.
Yay, Jen.
Thank you, Tom. And Tom.
Yay, Tom.
Fingers back.
Poor Tom.
He told me, no, I can't show his fingers anymore. We're done with that game. That was fun, but no more.
All right.
All right, guys. We'll see you.
See you
All
next
right.
week.
See you next
Bye,
week. Bye-bye.
everyone.